Joining me right now is the founder of the Atlas Organization. He is the author of China's Vision of Victory, author Jonathan Ward. Jonathan, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for joining me. We've been talking a lot about the way that the CCP bullies its neighbors in the South China Sea. Walk us through what they're doing, because now you've got the European Union speaking out about this, as well as the Americans.
Right. So what's new here is that, as we've seen over recent weeks, they've amassed a fishing fleet, sort of tied vessels together, placed them in the Spratlys at Whitsun Reef, and essentially using this as an intimidation tactic against the Philippines. In 2016, what the EU officials are referring to was a tribunal that basically rejected in whole China's claims over the entire South China Sea. I mean, the world pretty much understands that these are bogus claims, essentially concocted through a Communist Party reading of history. And in the meantime, they're trying to assert military control, essentially, through the island building that they've done over the past 7 years or so, and through a massive military buildup that we're all aware of. And they're also tying into this their civilian fishing fleet, which is the largest fishing fleet in the world. It goes globally. It sort of pulls up more fish than any other nation. And they've used that to bully neighbors in the immediate region. U.S. admirals have commented on how, when you account for the entire mass of maritime power, China is already the world's largest maritime power when you start to think about the civilian assets at their disposal. Also, if we think in terms of shipbuilding, what they've been able to do recently, they're very focused on the seas. It's part of their much larger grand strategy, and it's great to see U.S. allies in Europe, which for many, many years, Europe and Asia were sort of separate spheres from a security perspective. It's great to see the EU seeing the problem in Asia, being more vocal about it, and you even have individual nations preparing to send warships over to the South China Sea. So I think at this point, we're looking at the beginning of better transatlantic coordination, or at least understanding of the China issue and China's threat to Asia and the broader world.
Let me ask you about readiness, because the U.S. has some issues of its own in terms of readiness going up against the CCP. Jack Keane, General Keane, comes on this program a lot, and he always says the same thing, that we are outgunned when it comes to the Navy. The CCP has been investing in their Navy. Now we understand that Joe Biden's budget basically has defense spending declining. When you look at it compared to inflation, we're not increasing spending on defense, even as the threats are rising around us. We know that the Admiral Richard testified in front of the Intel Committee last week and said that our fleets are weaker and need to be updated. Yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, I spoke with Ohio Congressman Mike Turner. He's on the Intel Committee, about how the Chinese government views the State Department following last month's meeting in Alaska. Here's what he said.
Obviously, they see democracy as a threat to the Chinese Communist Party. And so any criticism that they can place upon America and our efforts to promote democracy, they see as advancing their goals. Secretary of State Blinken should be very concerned about Chinese criticism of democracy, because anytime we play into their narrative, we weaken America and we strengthen them.
So what would be your advice, Jonathan, for the U.S. to be doing right now to counter this threat?
Well, we have to take a comprehensive approach to it. I mean, economic engagement with China, the transferring of our industrial base to our primary adversary, is probably one of the greatest mistakes in the past 100 years, and we're going to have to reverse that now. So, first of all, you have to cut down, China's growth, cut down our engagement. We don't want this, in my opinion, this nation to be growing any further, and yet we're still investing and engaging. I mean, you're talking about the direct transfer of economic might into military power, so that creates, a military equation that we cannot win. You can't continue to deter against a place that is growing larger and larger. So we have to start with an economic strategy. Then we have to maintain defense in the Pacific. I mean, the Pacific Defense Initiative, it seems like absolutely the right first step. And shrinking our budgets would not make sense. But I think it's inflation cutting into the budget that's the key concern now. So, we're going to have to be sufficiently resourced to deal with both China and Russia and the increasing coordination of these two nations. So economic strategy, military strategy, and then I think what is being done right now is bringing the alliance system closer together on this issue. So having breakthroughs in Europe is going to be incredibly important. At the end of the day, China sees Europe really is the other major economic bloc. I mean, it's the only other collection of countries really that in aggregate is about the size of the U.S. economy. So their ability to trade with Europe while they challenge the U.S. and the rest of allied Asia has been at the center of their strategy for a long time. So we're going to have to work together as allies to start cutting Beijing off from financing, from Western technology, and ultimately from I think market access in certain ways, and rebuild our industrial bases, rebuild the coordination between our countries, form an alliance-based trading system, and start to cut Beijing off from the wider global economy, which has to be done over time. It can't be done immediately. But I think that ultimately you are going to have this bifurcation of the free world economy and China's economy. We just can't continue to engage with them the way that we have. And to undercut their power over time in that way will be the only way to regain the advantage in the long run.
There's a lot of worry about Beijing potentially invading Taiwan. They continue to say they want to see the reunification of China and Taiwan. What about that? Are you worried about that? Would the U.S. get involved in a conflict? And number two, should Americans be worried about going to Beijing for the Beijing Olympics? Xi Jinping out doing videos, commemorating that they are doing the Beijing Olympics in 2022. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the Olympics should be boycotted. I mean, let's face it, China's carrying out a genocide right now, and this is the first genocide that we've seen from an industrialized nation since Nazi Germany. And there's really no reason for us to be giving any legitimacy to this regime at this point. So an event like the Olympics, I think a lot of senators and Congress people have come out and asked to boycott it, and we should do that. And I think it's also time for our companies to realize that, doing business with China, particularly anything that surrounds Xinjiang, is completely unacceptable. I mean, this should be just a matter of moral course that we do not accept further engagement with a genocidal regime when it comes to their military buildup, their human rights repression, their strategic industries. And we have to recognize the nature of the conflict that we're in. I mean, this is the greatest challenger since the USSR, but in many ways it's much, much worse. I mean, because of the human rights atrocities that are really on a level that I think very few people expected to see in the 21st century from a nation that we chose to engage, to empower, to finance, to essentially transfer our technology in the hopes that they would become, a force for stability in the world. And instead, we've seen the return of many of humanity's most ferocious evils. And any further tolerance of that really should be, we should be finished with that at anything that sort of gives them a platform. So I think an important moral here is essential. I mean, that should be the core and the centerpiece of U.S. diplomacy, and it's also time for business leaders to understand that too.
All right, Jonathan, thanks very much for joining me this morning. Jonathan Ward, the author of China's Vision of Victory.